Hey, welcome back to another video. This is going to be in response to a comment on a video that happened the other day. And it's a topic that comes up maybe not a lot, but I think it's something that we should be thinking about a lot. And the comment came from a person who has been in a relationship with people who have high conflict exes. And the question is, how should men go about setting boundaries with abusive, high conflict birth mothers? The person says, I've had to break up with a couple of men because of this. They have no clue. And it's a really good question, and it really highlights a lot of the problems that happen in these high conflict relationships. Now, the first thing that we really have to hit on this that's really important is the reality that these people, their effect permeates through a lot of avenues of our life. And it can be very tough because we want to break free from them. We don't want to be under their control, their influence. But the sad reality is there is an effect. You just can't escape it. And what I'm saying on this is oftentimes people, they don't want to feel like they're trapped and unable to move forward or to move on with their life because of a toxic ex that just won't let things go and continues to make things a living hell. The reality of this is that you have to be very cautious of how you proceed with other relationships, and you have to be very open about what you're really dealing with. Now, my first recommendation on this is, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, is don't date. Do not bring somebody else into this mess, especially early on. And to be honest, that's the hardest part, because in the early on phases, we want to feel like we're moving on with our lives. We want to feel like we're able to meet other people and that we're not stuck, and that this situation isn't going to define us. And I've said in a lot of videos that it doesn't. This situation doesn't define the rest of our life. But it does impact a good portion of our lives, and we have to be cautious of that. The first thing is, to be perfectly honest, before you even consider dating, you absolutely need to work on yourself. You need to work on healing the wounds that you have as a result of this. You need to work on healing whatever, any lingering, not lingering, but any long-term issues like from your birth family. You need to deal with all that stuff. Because if you don't, you are just basically increasing the risk that you're going to repeat the same mistakes that you already have. And if you don't, if you're lucky enough to find a really good person, you are going to draw them into a nightmare that is ultimately going to lead to, like what this person was saying, to where they're going to have to walk away, because it's so much chaos and so much drama that a lot of people don't realize it. And I'll talk more about that towards the end of this video. So let's say that you have healed your wounds. You're doing pretty good. You don't have PTSD anymore on this. You have maybe it's just a stalemate on custody, but you have a parenting plan or a custody plan or something. Most of the court drama is over, and you are effectively in a stable place. Also to include that you have worked on yourself, so emotionally you're a healthy person, because this is all key. And the sad part about this is oftentimes we're really not going to know until we go into this to see what the trigger points are and how we really respond. But let's just say hypothetically that you are doing really well. Now you start dating somebody and they seem like a really great person, and you really want to make it serious. So in other words, let's say you've been dating and serious is, you need to get past the 3 to 6 month mark, because that's the typical point whenever like the honeymoon phase kind of fades and you start relaxing into who you really are. The other part about this that I just want to say is that if you've healed yourself and you've worked on it, then You're not going to be desperate for a relationship. You're not going to be scared to be alone. You'll be in a position to where you're good with yourself. You're able to self-validate. You don't need someone else to complete you. You need somebody to compliment you. And it sets the framework up completely different on what the relationship is and how it's going to proceed forward. Otherwise, what happens is you're freaked out. You don't want to lose this person. You lower your boundaries and you play games with yourself because you don't want to lose the relationship. You don't want to lose the attention. So you make excuses and stuff like that. That is absolutely, if you find yourself doing that, that is a bad indicator, and you need to back off of whatever you're doing and you need to go back and work on yourself. So let's say you're now at the point where you're doing good. You realize this person is a good mix in your life, and you've been going together for 3 to 6 months. You need to have a conversation, probably at the 3-month part, to really say, hey, look, here's the situation. I have a really toxic ex. You may, for the most part, I would encourage you in the first 3 months is have that relationship be completely separate from your kids and your ex. If you can actually do it to the point where nobody really knows, which is going to look a little weird, but I mean, so the kids don't know. You're not doing it in a way to where people are talking to the ex. You can set up a situation to where you have time for you guys to really work on your relationship. That's the best case. But then at some point you have to have that conversation to say, hey, look, here's the deal. I have a really toxic ex. It's going to effectively be a shit show whenever they find out about us. The kids, even if they meet you and love you, they are going to be used as pawns in this. This is a mess. And you have to be honest with the person and let them know what they're getting into. Because far too often what happens is people, they don't do all these things. They get into a relationship, they start doing it, everything goes to crap, and the person didn't realize what in the world they were signing up for. They didn't know. I mean, most people don't believe this type of stuff really happens. They think that, yeah, there are some people like that, but it's very minor. It doesn't happen that often. So they're not expecting it. They're expecting, yeah, okay, you guys were married, you were divorced, but obviously you're going to co-parent. Obviously you're going to work better for the kids. And oftentimes that new person is going to think, well, I'm going to be able to be the bridge. I'm going to be the one that'll be able to kind of like smooth everything over, and I'll be great for the kids. And not that I'll be their new parent, but I'll be able to interact with them. And it's a recipe for disaster, because if you don't have that situation, you're going to have somebody who is walking into a situation where it blows up in their face and they had no idea it was coming. You need to be incredibly honest with the person so they know. And the sad reality is, if you're really dealing with a toxic situation, the way you're going to explain it, they're still not going to get it. They won't get it until it finally happens, and you guys are sitting, at your house one day talking, going, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. The sad reality of this is a toxic person is not going to become a great parent. They're not going to turn around and become friends with your new love interest. They will try to undermine that person. They'll try to undermine you. They'll try to turn the kids against you. They'll try to make your life a living hell and use the kids to try to make your life a living hell to destroy your relationship. And oftentimes that's what happens, because this is a situation that is really, really tough for people to walk into, because most people don't get it. And then you just get to the point where it's like, holy crap, yeah, I care about you. I love you, but this situation is so catastrophic. I do not want the rest of my life to be like that. So in this situation, I guess the flip side to this, the message I would say for somebody who finds themselves in a relationship with somebody who has a really toxic ex, yes, there are ways to work through this, but it is going to be a lot of work. More work than just making a normal relationship work and function. You have to be on the same page. You have to be at a point to where, you know, you are also, if you're in the new relationship and you're into it, that you're emotionally healthy, that you have good boundaries, that you have excellent communication, because this is going to push everything. It's going to push all those buttons. If you want to talk about, or to talk about the effect this has on a relationship, most of you guys know I've been in a long-term relationship with my girlfriend. It's weird to say girlfriend whenever you're pushing 50, but that's what it is. We've been together over 6 years. And as a result of, not just completely this, but as a result of a nasty divorce where the kids are involved, we don't live together. We're this relationship has been on a slow roll because of all this, because we know that it would turn into a complete nightmare, because it's been a nightmare in a lot of ways over the course of the last 6 years. When my ex was focusing her attention on me, you know, to try to push my buttons, that was okay, right? Not okay, but that's what happened, right? And then when I got to the point that I was not affected by that anymore, it switched to the kids. And then when I finally made sense with that and started seeing my girlfriend, then it started being directed towards her. This stuff is very complicated. And the sad part about it is, here's the best solution. Okay, for the person who has kids with a person, and if you don't have a relationship, focus all your time on your kids. Do not get into another relationship. Focus it on doing decent at work to keep your financial situation as stable as possible. And then when you have your kids, focus your time on it. Spend your time with them. Go on trips with them. If you do have a relationship, keep it out of the kids' lives. The problem is that it's easy for someone like me at pushing 50, and my girlfriend, same thing. I mean, we're not looking to have more kids. We're not looking to, we'd like to live together. There are things we would like to have happen, but it's like, okay, it's like we understand the dynamic and there's enough value in our relationship that it's worth waiting. Well, if you're in your 30s, if you're younger and you're wanting to have another family, or you're wanting to, or let's say you've never had kids and you meet somebody and they have kids, and you're like, okay, you know what? Hey, I can go for this. Then a lot of the stuff I'm talking about could be deal breakers, and you have to be honest about it. And it's tough because whenever you really like somebody and you want the relationship to move forward and you want things to go a certain way, it's not answers you want to hear. The reality is diving into a relationship with somebody who has a narcissistic, toxic, high conflict relationship / divorce, it makes it complicated. I've talked to multiple people who got into these relationships, didn't realize, most of the time people don't realize how bad it is. And it's not uncommon to find out later when the kids are older and they become adults themselves to say that the other parent encouraged them to disrespect you, encouraged them to try to break the relationship up, to try to make the other parent choose between the new relationship and the kids. It's really tough. It's been tough on my girlfriend. It's not an easy thing. Now, full disclosure, to be perfectly honest, I did not do a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about because I didn't know what I was dealing with. I thought that my ex had calmed down. I thought that we were moving on with our lives. I did wait the 3 months before I even introduced my girlfriend to the kids. And after I did that, all hell broke loose. And it still wasn't like another year until I even learned about narcissistic abuse, personality disorders, all of this type of stuff, and really had a better, clearer idea of what potentially I was dealing with. Just as a caveat, my ex has never been diagnosed with anything. Most of you out there aren't going to get a diagnosis. You're going to have to basically look at it and go, look at the patterns of behavior of what the person's doing, and then try to determine what you're dealing with, and how to proceed forward. So it's tough, right? Because I think a lot of times new relationship would expect, like, hey, to the person who's the focus of the toxic ex, hey, you need to set boundaries. You need to tell the person that they can't do this. You need to tell them that they can't communicate with you this way. They can't disrespect you or disrespect me or play the kids. The reality is that it doesn't work that way. And until you've actually tried to beat your head against the wall to deal with one of these people, you don't really understand it. So, effectively, I guess if I'm talking to a person, let's say I'm talking to, like in this situation, a guy who has a toxic ex and has a kid, focus on yourself, focus on your career, and focus on spending whatever time you have with your kids. Stay out of relationships, serious relationships, because it's not fair to anybody. And the priority needs to be your stability, emotional stability of your life, not necessarily with a relationship, and showing those kids that you love them, that they are important, not that they're manipulating you and stuff like that, but just showing them what real love is, and trying to keep things as stable as possible. For somebody who is dating someone like that or seriously thinking about it, you have to be really careful. You have to have a realistic view of what's going on, and understand that if your new relationship has a high conflict narcissistic ex, it's not going to get better, and you're not going to be able to be a bridge to co-parent or bring sanity into the picture. If you're dealing with somebody who's not high conflict, you will absolutely be able to do that. I've known people who, they all get together. I mean, the mom and the dad and the new husband and the new girlfriend or new wife are all able to get together and celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas and birthdays and coordinate and all that kind of stuff, and that would be fantastic. And there are people who can do that. High conflict relationships, that's not possible. It's not something that happens. So I'm semi-reluctant to make this video just because it's not a great message. It's a hard reality that's true. That's a hard truth. Unfortunately, it's real. If I missed something on this, or maybe I didn't clarify it correctly, let me know down in the comments below so I can maybe clarify that or update this a little bit more. And I'm curious what you think, whether this makes sense to you, whether you agree with me or disagree. Maybe you've had a different experience. I'd like to hear your experience with this down in the comments below. And I will chat with you in the next video. Take care.